He has not created me for naught. I shall do good, I shall do his work. I shall be an angel of peace, a preacher of truth in my own place, while not intending it, if I do but keep his commandments. Therefore I will trust him.
Yosef Jagasvilwi can't breathe. After years of tyranny, racially based oppression, and murder, he is dying the same way as his victims, like a dog. He had a stroke on March 1st, 1953, and wasn't found till 3 a.m. Now it is March 5th, and the deepening blackness on his face illustrates his increasing suffocation and doom. Joseph Stalin is about to die. His daughter Svetlana watches from across the room. Svetlana has been in India for almost 2.5 months, with the family of her late husband, Rajesh Singh. Now she is back in Delhi and staying at the Soviet hostel near the Russian and American embassies. 2 things are stopping her from defecting. She doesn't have her passport, and her 2 grown children are back in the Soviet Union. When USSR nationals travel abroad, they are required to give up their passport to Russian authorities and only get it back as they are boarding the plane to go back to Russia. Ambassador Benediktov has Svetlana's passport. The ambassador is upset with Svetlana for defying Russian orders and staying longer than the 2 weeks they had instructed her to. Now that she is returning to Russia, he happily gives her back her passport beforehand at a dinner party. Svetlana plans to go and spend the evening with a friend who is coming to pick her up. As with the tradition of her father, she indefatigably makes the choice to go to the U.S. Embassy. She packs her bags and calls a taxi. The first one doesn't come, possibly because of the language barrier, so she calls again. The taxi arrives, she gets inside and goes through a dark alley and up to the embassy. A lone Marine, Danny Wall, greets her. Chester Bowles, the U.S. ambassador, is at home sick. Several members of the embassy walk to his house and discuss what to do next. Svetlana needs to get out of India. The Indian government is on very friendly relations with the USSR, and as soon as it is discovered that she is missing, the USSR will have the help of the Indian government in tracking her down. A cable is sent to headquarters in Washington, outlining a plan to get Svetlana out. Washington acknowledges the message. Svetlana goes to the airport and gets an exit visa from India when Bob Rowley, the embassy's second secretary, joins her at the airport. At 2:45 a.m., the 2 of them are on the plane and bound for Rome. U.S. Undersecretary of State Foy Kohler is informed of the situation, and he rushes a cable out to have her stopped. Too late. Because of a delay in the plane, Svetlana and Rowley were still on the ground in Delhi when the cable arrived. But the staff back at the embassy, whether out of disregard for the order or having believed them to be gone already, do not check the flight status of the plane. On March 12th, Svetlana is flown to Switzerland to await the judgment from the USA on her defection. The Russian press is working overtime to declare her insane. Svetlana Alleluia is told that on April 21st, she will be flying to the United States. She arrives with a manuscript about her family that would later become the book 20 Letters to a Friend and Presents for Her Children, still in her suitcase.
20 years ago, when I joined the Communist Party as a student of Moscow University, I believed in communism as everybody, all my friends, people of my generation did. And I was taught it since my childhood. And perhaps the studies of history and social sciences and economics and Marxism itself made me a little bit critical to many things which I could see around me and to the things I could see in our country and in other socialist countries, because it was not exactly what we were taught theoretically. Later, after my father's death, I can say that perhaps I have lost quite a lot with his death, because he was always for me the authority which could not be, well, I loved him, I respected him, and when he was gone, I have lost maybe a lot of faith, just personal faith and respect. Of course, I disapprove many things, but I think that many other people who still are in our Central Committee and Politburo should be responsible for the same things for which he alone was accused. And if I feel somebody responsible for those horrible things, killing people, injustice, I feel that responsible for this was and is the party, the regime, and the ideology as a whole.
Well, as it is known, and as he used to talk about it, it was rather horrid childhood of poverty, with father who was a drunk, who used to beat the rest of the household, mother and himself, and the boy, when he grew up a little bit into teenage, he used to protect mother. And one time even threw the knife at his father in protecting, so it was pretty wild, and then he had to run away and was hit by the neighbors from the furious father. It was pretty rough childhood. However, he used to say that he loved his mother always, who used to beat him too. He admitted that, but that didn't obviously make any difference. He kept certain reverence and really very sincere admiration to her and to her character until his late years. And then when he was in a seminary, at one time he worked at the astronomical observatory. He worked in some kind of capacity of writing down observations, something like that. He was a good student, as we know. Well, for us children, it was really an end of an era when she died. I was 6.5, my brother was 11.5, and he certainly took it with greater pain than I. And it was total change for us. Our teachers were fired, our home studies and all that schooling and education which mother was so concerned about, all that ended. Then soon I went to school, to regular school. Then another governess was hired, which was nothing of those whom mother used to find. And then in later few years, all her sisters and brothers, all Alleluia's relatives, aunts and uncles, so much beloved, they all disappeared and were sort of banned from house. So her departure from our life was really devastating for us, and I wouldn't hesitate to say that it was also devastating for my father too. The old servant, the real housekeeper of the house, who was a German from Riga, hired by my mother, a lovely woman, Carolina Thiel, was fired, and a younger person was brought in by KGB. She happened to be the relative of Beria's wife, cousin of Beria's wife, kind of young woman, KGB sort of informer, shall we say, and had some rank in KGB, major or a lieutenant or something, and all the cooks and servants were attested, had military ranks in KGB. So that militarization happened on the eve of war.
The daughter of dictator Joseph Stalin, who denounced communism after defecting to the US, has died at the age of 85. Svetlana Peters described her father as a moral and spiritual monster after escaping the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Peters, the name she eventually adopted, wrote 2 best-selling autobiographies.